तत्परं पर्याय विद्महे ज्ञानलिङ्गेश्वराय धीमहि तन्नो गुरुः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ योग महर्षि डॉक्टर स्वामी गीतानंद गिरि गुरु महाराज की जय। Namaste, Swagatam, Vanakkam, and welcome to the Silver Jubilee 25th session we are having today of the Scintillating Saturdays. And for the past 6 months, we have continued this by having these sessions every Saturday. So 6 into 4, 24, so it's about 6 months. And with the grace of Swamiji and Ammaji, we hope that this will continue and we'll keep sharing, because sharing is caring, and the more you care, the more you share. I initially set up my stuff outside because I love to be outdoors, and then a bit of a drizzle started, and I said, okay, the drizzle I will manage. And then the next door guest house has a swimming pool, and all the young people here on the New Year's holiday were making so much noise. I said, managing the drizzle, managing the crows, and then managing these subhuman humans is going to be a bit tough. So I said, let's get into the hut and have some safety so that I can have this communication which means so much to me, communicating with you on the other side of the screen. So many people, so many countries, so many continents, and yet we are all one at this present moment. We have been working through module 1 of the Yoga Step by Step, the correspondence course that was set up by my father about 50 years ago. And we have gone through the first module of 13 weeks. And in this journey of 13 weeks, so much has been learned, thanks to all the wonderful mentors who are part of this team. 25 senior teachers of this tradition are assisting me in the conduct of this program. Along with that, the amazing students, all the amazing team 52, who are such jewels. I've been reviewing some of the assignments, and it's amazing. What you all are doing is amazing. And Kiran Bhagavan Das, I would like to publicly appreciate your amazing effort. Your 13 lesson assignment is amazing. Last night I was going through it and really enjoyed how much it has helped yoga to manifest so deeply in you in such a mindful way. My dear ICYER has put together amazing notes for the 13 sessions, and it's such a beautiful journey we are having together. January 10th, we begin module 2, and already about 85% of the participants have confirmed the participation in module 2, and we hope that this will continue as we go on in our journey. For those who have not joined us already, we are creating an opportunity through my dear Jennifer in Canada, where we are going to set up these modules and these lessons online, so that those who want to do it at their own pace will be able to access the lessons, the recordings, all the additional handouts I give, and can do it at their own pace. So soon we'll be releasing the details of module 1 for those who have missed the bus. Well, you can still catch up through this. So lot of good stuff happening, and 2021 will be a year of transformation. As Ammaji told us so beautifully yesterday, don't worry, be happy. and I think it's such a beautiful statement for 2021, is so useful, so useful. It is really something that enables us to take another look at our life. In these lessons, Swamiji has given us so much of wisdom to chew on. And one of the very beautiful concepts he gives us is the concept of Yoga Drishti, the yogic perspective. And I thought I will spend today and maybe even the next session next week on this, because the Yoga Drishti, the yogic perspective, is vital for our own growth. We are not adopting a yogic perspective to earn brownie points with somebody else. We are not adopting a yogic perspective to be more yogic than you. It's none of that nonsense. You're not adopting a yogic perspective because you'll go to heaven, and if you don't, you'll go to hell. You are choosing, again, the power of choice, the superpower of being human. You are mindfully, consciously, with awareness and with the power of intent, choosing this yogic perspective, the Yoga Drishti, for the sake of your own evolution. And when we use the word evolution here, we should actually be using the word involution, because evolution is taking you actually away from the source. Involution is taking you back to the source. But normally we talk about spiritual evolution. It should be spiritual involution. Because evolution is actually driven by mutation. That is pure science. And recently I had one of my dear students leave me because she felt I'm mixing too much of science with spirituality. She said, I want more spirituality from my guru. I said, fine, no issue. You will find what you seek. I'm not going to change myself whether people come to me or go away from me. That is their choice. My dharma is paramount. My swadharma, which my parents, Swamiji and Ammaji, have given me, is of paramount importance. I am not here to win a popularity contest. I am not here to appear as something. I am here to be myself and nothing else. And in the process of understanding who I am, try to grow into that universality that is my essential nature. Everything else is peripheral. Coming back, evolution scientifically is driven by mutation. And mutation means that it's taking you away from what is the pure source. And in yoga, I would say the mutation is basically the kleshas. Kleshas are your mutants that are actually driving you away from who you really are and creating a bondage with an artificial sense of evolution, which is where most people are. But the yogic perspective says, I want to go back to being who I am in my essential nature. Tadeko Vashishta Shiva Kevalo. That state where we are one with our own essential nature. Swarupe Avasthanam, as Maharishi Patanjali tells us. Swarupa, our own essential nature. We want to be established, avasthanam, in that swarupa, not in somebody else's swarupa. Somebody else's swarupa is their swarupa, not yours. Somebody else's swadharma is their swadharma, not yours. Swa is the self. Swarupa is your essential nature. Swadharma is that path of mindful living that enables you in a responsible manner to reconnect with who you truly are. Your own dharma marga, your own path of dharma towards your own, which is your swadharma towards your swarupa. It is not a race with somebody else. It's not a competition with somebody else. It is not a holier than thou or a yogic, more yogic than thou or more elevated than thou or more hair on the top of your head than thou. Nonsense. People get stuck with this comparison, and comparison is the theft of joy. Stop comparing with anybody. You are your own unique, one-of-a-kind creation. One of a kind. Never before, never after. Never before, never after manifestation of energy. Slow down energy. When you slow down energy, you have mass and matter, which is what we are. E is equal to mc square, Einstein. You slow the energy down enough, you have mass and matter. And what does a yogi says? Let's speed up mass and matter to become energy once again. That is the whole aspect here. What is the power that enables you to speed up? The power of the focused mind. The focused mind is so important. So important. The focused mind, the laser beam. What do you choose to focus upon? Well, that is your perspective. That is your Drishti. Your Drishti Kona. Kona is an angle. That is why triangle pose is Trikona. And when people try to divorce yoga from Sanskrit, they end up with nonsense. Because then you understand multiple angles of the perspective. Kona. The English word cone. Kona means an angle. Drishti Kona. Which angle of the ring, which corner of the ring are you fighting your battle from? That is your Drishti Kona. Because depending on which corner of the room you are in, your perspective is going to be different. And 360 degrees into 360 degrees. You have multiple varied points of perspective. Drishti Konas are different. So the Drishti Kona of a mosquito is going to be different than the Drishti Kona of a butterfly, and the Drishti Kona of my dog Bimi, who jumped on the bed and licked Ammaji and said, "Get well soon today, Amma." She is the official therapist in residence, Bimi. And so she jumps on the bed and licks Amma and says, "Get well soon, Ma." Huh? What unconditional love. And dogs have those beautiful emotions of unconditional love. D-O-G, reverse it, G-O-D. God loves you unconditionally. Now, I'm using the term God here, but for me it's the divinity, the mother universe itself. Bimi has her perspective. Bukash, the one who keeps on barking, he has his own perspective. He lives in his own world. Each one of us has our own Drishti Kona. We have our own perspective based on where we are at that moment, at that point of time. Where time and space come together, at that point we create our own niche. Our sthana. Again the word sthana. And you want to find your own sukha sthana. Your own ledge where you are at ease with yourself. Your own resting abode where you are in sukha, at ease with yourself. Because if you are not at ease with yourself, you are in dukkha, which is suffering. You know, one has to be very careful because our Drishti Kona, our point of perspective, if you go to the court Now let's bring a legal perspective into it. And for the past 30 years, we have been fighting the government of Pondicherry in the court for Kambliswamy Madam, the sacred Samadhi site that these Rakshasas are hell-bent on destroying. Swamiji lost at least 30 years of his life, and Ammaji another 20-30 years. I don't know how many years of my life I will lose fighting this arrogant, ignorant people who just don't want the light to shine. So I know quite a bit about the court, okay? Been there, done that, and we are still doing that. In the court of law, you are asked, when you go and you want to lay a case, litigation, a question is asked of you, what is your locus standi? What is your locus standi is the question asked. Locus means a point. Niche. I was using that word niche earlier. Locus is a point. Standi is where you stand. What is your point of standing in relation to this case? How are you related to it? What right do you have to have a perspective about it? And once the judge is satisfied you have a locus standi in this case, you can then start to offer your perspective. Now each one of us is already having our own locus standi in life. It is where we stand in life, and that place, that locus where we stand influences our perspective. When we stand on earth, we look at the moon as that silvery ball in the sky. If we were standing on moon, we would see earth as that beautiful blue planet. Depending on whether you are on earth or on the moon, your perspective will be different. When I gave Satsanga 999 on Thursday evening, it was the 31st of December evening here in India. For some of you in North America, it was the early morning of 31st of December. And for some of our participants down under in Australia and New Zealand, as we were teaching this class and having Satsanga, they had the break of 2021. Because I think when we started, it was about 11 o'clock. And by the time we ended, I think it was 12:30 or 1 o'clock in Australia. And I said that was the last class I taught of 2020, and it became the first class of 2021. The same class became both. Lord Krishna reminds us in the Bhagavad Gita, Ya nisha sarva bhutanam tasyam jagrati samyami yasyam jagrati bhutani sa nisha pashyato muni. That which is perceived to be night to all beings is understood to be day by the yogi. Nisha means night. Ya nisha sarva bhutanam yasyam jagrati. The yogi is awake because it is day for him. It's a moment of wakefulness. Yasyam jagrati bhutani. When all the other beings think it is time to be awake, sa nisha pashyato muni. The muni, the one who is the yogi in silence, not the one who talks like me or over talks like me. The muni is one who is in mauna, keeps quiet. That's why they say silence is golden. The muni, the yogi in that higher state of consciousness understands everybody thinks this is night, but it is actually a time to be awake and day. And everybody thinks this is a time to be awake and have fun, and you realize it's a time for rest and recuperation. The perspective of the yogi and the non-yogi is day and night, poles apart. And I always joke that Lord Krishna knew about the time zones on this planet, and that when it's day in India, it's night in USA, and when it's night in India, it is day in the USA. And he knew about this difference, and that is what he is quoting about. The perspectives are so varied based on where you are on this planet. Even in the same city, often in Pondicherry, one part of Pondicherry there will be heavy rain, another part is totally dry. And so I get a call, sir, I cannot come to work because it is raining heavily. And I'm like, where's the rain? And on another day, someone comes and they say, oh, when we started from our house, there was no rain, and in the ashram it is raining. I remember one time Devasena and I had to go to town, and it was raining heavily in the ashram. The ashram is 5 kilometers out of Pondicherry. And so we put on our raincoats, jumped on my scooter, and we drove into Pondicherry. Heavy rain lashing us. Just as we crossed the border between Tamil Nadu and Pondicherry, that is the border that's about 3 kilometers from here, everything was totally dry. The roads were dry. There was not a drop of water any place, and everybody was having a normal life. And you can imagine what they thought of Devasena and I with our raincoats and totally wet driving through town. I'm sure they thought these madcaps are so mad they put on a raincoat and put a few buckets of water on themselves because there's no rain here in Pondicherry. What is the difference? The difference is where you are. Where you are in that present moment, that point of time and space creates your perspective of what is happening around you. And so it is always going to be limited. It is never going to be complete. It is never going to be expanded. And it will never be wholesome. The only way you can have a wholesome, expanded, all-encompassing perspective is by elevating your consciousness. And as you elevate your consciousness, you come to a point of view where your consciousness is the same as the highest consciousness, and at that point, you know reality. And that is the goal of yoga. Move from individualized, limited, finite consciousness that limits your perspective and expand your consciousness to a universal, unlimited, all-encompassing perspective that sees the bigger picture. As long as your perspective is limited, you will be stressed. As long as you expand your perspective, you de-stress yourself. And that is why God doesn't have any stress. God's having fun there because there's no stress. The perspective is so big, there's no use in losing sleep over it. So God has a nice sleep. Lord Vishnu is reclining on his serpent Ananta on the Milky Way and having a nice yoga nidra. He is in yoga nidra, and Goddess Lakshmi is taking care that he is happy and all satisfied. Everybody is very happy up there. Because the perspective is so expanded, there's nothing to worry about. But when your perspective is limited, everything becomes life and death. I like to tell the difference between a mouse and an elephant. For a mouse, every movement is life-threatening. A leaf drops and the mouse is, ah! You open the door, ah! You shut the door, ah! You sneeze, ah! You eat a biscuit, ah! Everything is life-threatening because the mouse's perspective is the mouse perspective. Now you go to an elephant. And you go and jump up and down, you beat the drums, you do anything you want, and the elephant sort of just is like, says, this idiot wants to jump up and down, let him jump up and down, why should I worry? There's no use in it. The elephant has that expanded perspective, and that elevated perspective gives a sense of ease, sukham. It's not agitated by whether you close the door or not, because the door that closes will open and the door that opens will close. Some people come into the room, some people go to the room. Okay, fine. Whereas for the mouse, the more limited your perspective, the more stressed you are by everything that happens in your life. And that is why the yoga drishti, the yogic perspective, implies a capacity to grow. This growth is a growth of choice. Because as long as your perspective is based on a sensory experience, it's going to be very limited. The human senses are very limited. What we can see, what we can feel, what we can taste, they are very limited. There are animals that have much better senses than us. What the eagle can see and what, many birds can hear and perceive, and it's astonishing. We are sensorily deprived. Human beings are sensory handicapped. But what do we call that? Sensorily challenged. Being human is being sensorily challenged. Such limited senses we have. And then even they don't work properly. So we need glasses, we need hearing aids. And we are so desensitized to everything. And then we think, I will only believe it if I see it. You cannot see anything more than 3 feet more than you, farther away from you, and you think, if I see it, I'll believe it. If I hear it, I'll believe it. For God's sake, you cannot hear most of the stuff in the universe. No, I cannot hear it, so it doesn't exist. What a warped, limited perspective we choose. And then we create instruments. That is where science comes in. We create instruments that are based on our sensory apparatus. And we say, I'm going to use this instrument to find out about the universe. Who created the instrument? You. With what? Your senses, your capacities. And based on what? Your senses. Your sense of sight, you create a camera. Your sense of hearing, you create a microphone. Your sense of touch, you create kinesthetic equipment. And then you say, my equipment is very sensitive. What a deluded thinking we have. And if my equipment doesn't pick it up, it doesn't exist. That's as bad as the cat closing its eyes and thinking nobody can see it. And yes, Soundarajan, technology dependency is making humans even more weak of the sensory apparatus, yes. Because nowadays, people have stopped using their head. They don't look at anything anymore. They're always taking a photo with their mobile phone. They don't listen to classes. They are so busy recording it. My father used to tease his students when they were taking notes in class. He said, your notebook will become enlightened, not you. And my dear yoga aunt down under, Geeta, such a beautiful woman. Swamiji loved her dearly, very, very dear soul. I remember Geeta, she used to bring a small tape recorder in those days. I'm talking about the early 80s. A small tape recorder. And she used to bring this tape recorder to class and record every class of Swamiji. And Swamiji used to tease Geeta. He said, Geeta, your tape recorder is going to get enlightened, not you. We have become so dependent on technology. Oh, yes, that has again made us even more handicapped sensorily. We don't trust our eyes anymore. We don't trust our ears anymore. We don't trust ourselves anymore. You know, the yogic perspective, yoga drishti, implies a perspective that comes from a place above the senses. Because as long as you are perceiving the world through the sensory prism, the light is getting scattered. It doesn't matter what prism you use. The prism becomes the prison. The prism of the senses becomes the prison, and you become a slave caught to the web, caught in the web of the senses. Indriya Jala. Jala is a web, snare. S-N-A-R-E, snare. The snare of the senses has trapped you. I see it. I hear it. I taste it. I feel it. Because all of your senses are liars. You say, Dr. Ananda, I see you on the screen. How can that be a lie? Well, you would have to go into a bit of metaphysics to understand. All the sensations are based on receptor, stimulus receptor interaction. And that is why the connection, the coming together of the sensation and the receptor, the stimulus and the receptor, them coming together creates the sensation that is felt. Stimulus, receptor coming together creates sensation. Let's go to Maharishi Patanjali. Drashtu drishyayo samyogo. Drashtu, the perceiver. Drishyayo, that which is perceived, the stimulus. Drashta, the receptor. Drashta drishyayo samyogo, them coming together. The perceiver and the perceived coming together. The receptor and the stimulus coming together creates the sensation. And what is this sensation? Drashta drishyayo samyogo heya hetuhu. This is the cause of avidya itself. The avidya, which is the ignorance, is leading to our attachment to the impermanent, anitya, which is asuchi, impure, which is filled with dukkha and is of the non-self, anatmasu. Anitya, asuchi, dukkha, anatmasu, and we confuse it to be nitya, suchi, sukha, atmakyati. We confuse the impermanent to be permanent. We confuse the non-self to be the self, the impure to be the pure, and we confuse suffering to be pleasure. Because of avidya. Tasya hetu avidya. And what is happening? Because of that avidya, it is being enhanced and amplified by drashta drishyayo samyogo. The coming together of the perceiver and the perceived, and you say, oh, I perceive you also, you are real. But why does this experience occur? Bhoga apavargartam drishyam. All of this experience that we have, perceiver, perceived coming together, receptor, stimulus coming together, creating sensation. Why does it exist? For you to experience it. Bhoga and apavarga and to be liberated from it. You have to go through it and go beyond it. This is the difference between the Yoga Drishti and the Vedanta Drishti. The Vedanta Drishti says it's all Sarvam Brahmamayam. Everything is Maya. Only the Sat is Brahman. But Yoga says this perceived world has been created for your experience. You go through it. Don't deny it. You don't deny it. There's no denial in Yoga Drishti. There is an acceptance that there is an experience, but do not get caught in it. Be in the world, but don't be of the world. And that is where the power of Vairagya comes in. Non-attachment to the experience, so that you are understanding, I am having an experience, and this experience is for the sake of my constant growth towards my own essential nature. And then every life experience becomes a building block for your journey back. Home, sweet home. But if not, you get locked in it. And your sensory attachment, your entrapment in the sensory snare, the Indriya Jala, prevents you from knowing yourself. And then you believe, I am what I perceive. Or even worse, like Descartes, I think, therefore I am. What nonsense he brought into the world. I think, therefore I am. It is because the Atma, the Paramatma is coming through us that even the thought process occurs. That is why the yogic perspective is, I am, therefore I think. Aham Brahmasmi. Not I think, therefore I am. See, one has to be very, very careful. This connection that is happening is a sensory level connection. And all your sensations are subcortical. Subcortical sensory apparatus. I think we are going to take a series of Saturday mornings for this. All our sensations, Mooladhara related to the sense of smell, Swadhisthana related to the sense of taste, Manipura related to the sense of sight, Anahata related to the sense of touch, and Vishuddha related to the sense of communication and hearing. All of these are the lower spinal centers. It is only when you transcend the lower spinal centers and come up to the Ajna, you make a leap of consciousness from here to here. It is a leap of consciousness where instead of going around in circles, the lower 5 centers, the energy moves in a circular pattern, circular spiraling up. The central axis, the Sushumna Nadi. People, put the chakras as if they are on a t-shirt. They're not on the front or the back of you. They are all spiraling up that central axis, Sushumna Nadi. And the ultimate journey is the journey up that Sushumna from Mooladhara to Sahasrara. We are caught at the earth element, the most gross of connections, solid state with smell. Similarly, we come up. It is only when you come to the Ajna that the concept of intuitive understanding comes in. Up to the lower 5, it is instinctive reactionary living. Living, survival. Instinctive reactionary survival, the lower 5 centers that are connected to the senses. The senses are there to help you survive, nothing else. Nothing more, nothing less, and are driven by abhinivesha, klesha, the desire to survive at any cost. And so, your senses are driving that, the abhinivesha, klesha. It is only when you transcend the senses that you move from survival mode to living mode. Survival mode is up to here. Living mode is here. And it is only when you start to have a yoga drishti that comes from the ajna and above. It is at that point you really start to live. Till then, you're just barely surviving with your toenails on the cliff. We will stop here for today. We'll continue over the next few Saturdays. One of the most important concepts of yoga is the yoga drishti. The yoga drishti enables us to perceive this world as it is, enables us to be in the world but not be of the world. And just like the lotus, as Acharya Birju Maharaj has reminded us, just like the lotus comes from the tamasika mud through the rajasika water and flowers into the satvika sun, let us also live our life like that. Kamala Lochana. It is described that the divine has eyes like a lotus. Yochanam Kamala Lochana. What beautiful concepts. What beautiful concepts. That just as the lotus can grow from the tamasika to the rajasika to the sattvika and flower into the nirguna state. Nirguna parabrahma swarupa. That is what we want to be. That is what we need to be. Let us make a sankalpa to work towards that yoga drishti. Om Loka Samastam Sukhino Bhavantu Sarve Janaha Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shantihi Shantihi Shantihi. Om. Dhanyavadaha. Nandri. Thank you.